right. I didn't see that on the schedule. Hey, we're live. What's going on, Stokastic? It's your old pal Emac coming to you on a Sunday. Glorious day. My Seahawks won. The University of Washington Huskies won yesterday, beating my brother's school. It was a good day. It was a good day, Greg. And tonight, Scuba's watching this game, right?
Oh, yeah.
Will he make it? Which one of us will fall asleep first? Will he make it past halftime? That's my goal today.
So it'll depend on the score. I'll say that my dad, who's a diehard Giants fan, will probably fall asleep somewhere around halftime / third quarter. And then if it's competitive, he'll be up towards the end. But if not, then he'll be down. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. And I mean, the Giants, since they're at home, they're not massive on it. It's only a 5.5 point spread. It's not like this is expected to be a massively one-sided game. Could certainly be the case, but last week their game was pretty damn competitive against the Cowboys. Now, I think we are learning more and more over the course of the season that Cowboys team is no good, very bad. So maybe it wasn't all that telling that they were in a competitive game against the Cowboys, but last week's game was very competitive.
All right. We have 3 different names for the NFL Showdown in our drop-down box on the read sheet. I found the right one. Right one.
Well, yeah, I do know that because they're the different. There's Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, and Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, and what my boss asked me to do is not under Sunday Night Football. It's under generic Showdown. So there we go. There we go.
What? That's a good call. I should. You know what? I could just change it and just make it all the same nomenclature for all of them. What does it matter?
Who cares, right? Who cares? It's only the lifeblood of Stokastic. Come on. Morgan Wiper says the Stokastic Hall of Fame just got a new member. Oh, I'm hoping it's Morgan. He's been posting quite a bit this season in chat. So, Morgan, hopefully you got something exciting there. Be sure to tweet that out at StokasticHOF on Twitter. And any of you can partake in this. All you got to do is download the Stokastic avatar, upload that to your DFS site of choice, win or place top 3 in any contest with at least 5,000 people, and you will get varying levels of Sims access the more times you win in a year. It's very, very cool. No 50-way ties for Showdown. It's got to be first, second, or third solos. But pretty cool. Or a 3-way tie for first. That would work. It's pretty cool. And you can – I heard Ben say it today. You can free roll if you play throughout the year. You can probably get 3 or 4 of these if you're disciplined. If you are disciplined and you're playing in some of those nickel and quarter contests. Just saying, I've only gotten MLB and NBA, I think 8 times so far this year. So there we go. Just throwing that out there. So we got a good game tonight here. 2 teams that don't have a win yet. We're going to have to find out. Somebody has to get a win, don't they? No, there could be a tie. There could be a tie. But ideally, Kansas City favored by 6.5, depending on which your site of choice is, as we get ready here for the game in MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. If we want to be all particular, they're playing in your state. What is your take on Russell Wilson? So last week, 450 or whatever yards it was, that was his second 400-plus yard performance in his last 8 starts. Patrick Mahomes has 2 400-yard games in his last 37 starts. Thoughts? Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes.
So even more important, because I just did some quick research. Morgan won $1 million today.
What?
That's not bad. That's not bad, right? That's pretty
solid. $1 million?
Maybe some would say $1 billion. Others would say $1 million. They'd be more accurate, but it's not bad. It's not bad.
Goodness gracious. Well, in that case, since my dog is annoying me, this is Mildred, named after my grandmother, but her name, we call her Millie. So, Morgan, you have something in common with Millie. You've won my game, and I have a Millie.
Does that mean that he gets your dog?
At this point, she's annoying the hell out of me, so sure.
Yeah, but shout out to Morgan because that is a sick win. I'm looking forward to seeing what the lineup is, which hopefully post to Twitter. I want to see who it is that you played today.
That is that. Yeah, that's a lot of fun. I believe I cashed for $40 in my lone Millie Maker lineup. I had a chip in a chair. All right, so back to tonight's game. Both quarterbacks are reasonable for the multiplier, and that is because it's just one of those games where we're missing so many people from Kansas City, and it's such a shared workload that we can't really trust or point to a particular person. The Giants, you can point to Malik Neighbors, but that's kind of really it. They have a shared backfield as well. So there's decision points up and down both rosters here, which is why the quarterbacks are important. Did you know that Patrick Mahomes, let me get my notes up. I think he is the 17th leading rusher in the league here, Greg. That is 138 yards through 2 games. That is last year he rushed for just over 300 yards. We know he tends to turn it on in the playoffs. He doesn't like to take the risks because going back, what was it? Either the pandemic year or the year after, he took a couple big hits. And from that point on, he was just like, okay, well, I'm only in crucial situations will I actually run. It's kind of crucial situations. There are only 2 and nothing is going. Travis Kelce is doing everything he can to blow games and injure his teammates and just become a locker room cancer. Women make the legs weak, Greg. That's gotta listen to Mickey from Rocky. Well, but what do you want to do here with the quarterbacks? Are they your favorite multiplier guys?
So one of them is in Patrick Mahomes, and the only real knock I have on Mahomes is the ownership we have him projected for. It is massive. You guys see, I've got the captain ownership up here on DraftKings. We've got Mahomes projected for 31% ownership in the captain spot, and I typically don't like to roster quarterbacks that don't have rushing upside, but per what you just said before, we do know that Patrick Mahomes has a good amount of rushing upside, and it's something he's been doing more of this year. So in terms of just who is the best guy to be playing in the multiplier spot on both FanDuel and DraftKings from just a fantasy points perspective, it's Patrick Mahomes. He shows up in more of those captain lineups / MVP lineups than anybody else in the Stokastic data, but he's so damn popular in that spot as well, Emac, that while I don't have an issue with Patrick Mahomes, it's hard to say you're going to be like well overweight to the field, because what does that mean? If you're playing 150 lineups, like 75 of them are going to have Mahomes or something like that. So he's going to be uber popular in the captain spot. That is the one thing to look out for. So I do think that in the interest of trying to make your lineups a little bit different, anytime you are playing him in that multiplier spot, the rest of the lineup kind of has to be somewhat different somewhere else. So I do think he's the guy to be playing in the multiplier spot for sure in cash games, certainly viable in GPPs, but I don't really want to be overweight to the field or anything like that. And then when it comes to Russell Wilson, the problem I have with Wilson is he does have some rushing upside, but I tend to think if Russell Wilson has a really big game, it's hard for me to see Malik Neighbors not outscoring him, having an even bigger game, that kind of scenario, because Neighbors is just ridiculous. I think you can make a case that Neighbors is, at a minimum, a top 5 wide receiver in the league right now, just massively talented. So I prefer going to Malik Neighbors in the, I know that we're kind of going like position by position. We're just kind of group the quarterbacks together, but I can't talk about one without the other. So I strongly prefer Patrick Mahomes in the multiplier spot. And then as far as Russell Wilson goes, viable, but I'm not massively interested in him. If I'm paying up for a giant in the multiplier spot, I'd prefer it to be Malik Neighbors.
All right. Here's another thing that I like to use for perspective when we get Patrick Mahomes on the slate. So through his first 80 games, he had the all-time per game league record for passing yards per game. It got up as high as 306 yards per game. He has now dropped down to 287.7 over the last 2+ years because of how the league has changed. Tyreek Hill being in Miami, Kelce getting older, and a lot of it is just because we're seeing a lot of cover 2, cover 3, where the defenses are sort of just saying, nah, you're going to have to beat us down low. So that's one thing we always need to remember with Mahomes. He's arguably, and I'm a huge Joe Montana fan, and I said, well, Brady's better than him, at least from the body of work. Patrick Mahomes is better than any quarterback we've seen, just with his ability, his mobility, and escapability. A lot of abilities there. But he is someone that this isn't quite. The league has changed a lot in the last 3 years with kind of leaning back towards the running game, which makes sense because the teams are always trying to evolve. And way back in the day, it was, trying to get the Randy Mosses and the 6'5" receivers. And then, now it's, the cornerbacks got bigger, and then, we need quicker receivers. They go smaller. Now it's no running game. Now it's the running game because they want to run against cover or against the nickel, etc. So things are changing, and that we really are seeing that in DFS. So that's something to keep in mind for this one. But regarding the quarterbacks, I agree with you completely that Russell Wilson is, God, he was so good in the Seattle years, and he's just, the game has kind of passed him by because there's so much zone. He was way better in man coverage. He can still throw the moon ball, but he is not as good with those laser direct throws. That was never really part of his game. And now that he doesn't have the wheels or the mobility anymore, and the offensive line's not that great for the Giants, he is, we know what we're getting with him. Could he have flash again like he did in the last game? Sure. Highly unlikely, though. But again, 2 400-yard passing games in his last 8. You got to throw that out there for 2 different teams, not known as passing teams. What do you think about our dueling shared backfields here? Mm-hmm. Is of our 4 RB not ones, but just our 2 for I can't even bestow anything on them. Why do you like Tebow the most? And we're going to call him Tebow because we should, in honor of his name.
Sure. So if you look at all of the running backs that we have to look at for today, we've got Isaiah Pacheco, we've got Cam Skattebo, and one thing that is an important note coming into this game is that Cam Skattebo played nearly all of the snaps for the Giants in the second half of their last game, and the report that we got leading up to today is that Cam Skattebo is expected to take on an even bigger workload for the Giants, which is already something we saw trend over the first couple of weeks of the season. He barely plays in week 1, plays more in the first half of week 2, and then basically the entirety of the second half of week 2. So we're kind of already there with Cam Skattebo. It looks like he's going to be the workhorse in the Giants backfield going forward. The big concern here, though, is the matchup is terrible, right? The game script could not be worse for running. Well, I guess it could be worse because Giants could be even bigger underdogs, but it's not a very favorable game script. And the Chiefs' defense is elite. The Chiefs have a very, very good defense. Their offense has Patrick Mahomes, and that's kind of it, right? Like the current state of the offense with no Xavier Worthy, with no Rashee Rice, it's Patrick Mahomes with not a lot of weapons to throw the football to. So what I'm getting at here anyway is my actual favorite running back to be rostering from this game is going to be Isaiah Pacheco. It certainly sucks that he has sucked so far this year. I believe of all of the, all the PFF qualified running backs, I think he ranks last in the league this year. If it's not last, it's very close to last. So he's been brutally, brutally bad so far. But one thing that I do think has to be important when we talk about the Kansas City Chiefs so far to open up the season, this has not been easy sledding for them through 2 games. The Kansas City Chiefs had to play in Brazil against the Chargers, and I think we now know that Chargers team is very, very legit. But also, that Brazil field, if you remember back to last year, Emac, it is awful. Like, that is a terrible, terrible field for I'm trying to get these bots out of here while I'm talking also. It is a terrible, terrible field for just being able to maneuver. I think last year we saw multiple knee injuries on the Brazil field. I think a ref blew out his knee on that Brazil field also. So that first week is a little wonky. And then the second week of the season, the Chiefs had to play the Eagles, another really tough matchup. So I don't want to just look at the first couple weeks of the Chiefs season and be like, boy, this team is terrible. This team is past prime and that they're not going to be a playoff team or anything like that this year. I think the Chiefs should win this game and get back on track. And I think Pacheco is very easily set up to have what could potentially be his breakout game of the season. Now, the Giants' run defense is also quite a bit better than their pass defense. So it's not like it's the easiest matchup in the world for Pacheco, but I do think it's easier than it was the first couple weeks of the season. So I like Pacheco a little bit more than Cam Skattebo, but they're my 1A and 1B running backs for this slate. Skattebo, I probably feel better about his work than any other running back in the game. I just really hate the matchup he has in the game script.
No, that's fair. Recovering from the broken leg, everybody kind of gave Pacheco a pass. I agree with you. 2 tougher matchups. Can't write him off just yet because we want to give him credit for what he did 2 years ago. from that standpoint. But Hunt has been a little too close for our liking here in the running back share. They both have around the same carries, around the same targets, and Hunt is interesting in the passing game because he's a little bit better of a pass protector. I want to call back to because Andy Reid, likes to sneak in running backs every now and then. What do you think about rookie Brashard Smith? Because it was about 3-4 years ago when we saw Derek Gore have a surprise game against these Giants on Monday Night Football. Do you think Pacheco has any chance here?
Well, I just said Pacheco is my favorite running back in the game, so yes.
Oh, sorry. No, I meant Brashard Smith.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, so Smith is not showing up in the Sims really at all. The one thing he's going for him is he's $400, and it takes so little for any of these guys who are this cheap to be in a winning lineup. It usually has very little to do what they do, and it's more so what do the pay-up options do in the game. So, if you needed to punt, I think Brashard Smith is okay to go with. But top 150 lineups in the Sims, you only show up in one of them. I don't think it's a necessary salary-saving move.
Okay, I wanted to throw it out there for the 100 entry people. 50, it's about when you're going to start getting them in. You should have a couple shares when you get to 100 lineups. But if you're not, it's not the best chalk. But there is the moment with Andy Reid, and I like saying Scatebo instead of Scatebo. It's what we got to do. What are your thoughts on Travis Swift tonight? That is from Ray P. Nice little super chat there. So that would be Travis Kelce. So Kelce did not make the top 10 on my free article that ranks the entire player pool. He got put into the secondary tier. Very, very, it was a great run. That was my assessment. He has been so good for so long. Last year, he got by on volume. He only scored 3 touchdowns, but he had, it's whatever it was, 136 targets, very similar to what he had done in the prior 4 or 5 seasons, but just no yardage after the catch. Clearly, he's kind of he's still got the best hands on the team, but what is that upside? So he becomes entirely red zone dependent. And with Patrick Mahomes, anybody's in play in the red zone. He doesn't typically play favorites once it gets down to that point. For what it's worth, Russ Wilson does not either. Even back to his Seattle days, he would go more to tight ends. But approximately, I think over his last 3 or 4 seasons in Seattle, 30% of his touchdowns in the red zone went to tight ends. And it wasn't like the tight end one. It was just a collection of silly people that probably shouldn't have been in the league. Looking at you, Graham, looking at you. So I am trepidatious to go with Travis Swift.
I could hear your dog playing with the toy in the background. By the way, you absolutely just got Bart Simpson too. I don't know if you noticed that, but the name from the super chat, read it out in your head. You got Bart Simpson. This was Bart calling into Mo and got you.
No, I know he said Travis Swift. It's the joke.
No. His YouTube name.
Oh, I'm looking at StreamYard.
Yeah, I know. This is like the.
Yeah.
Do you see what happened now?
I didn't realize that was a verb. Okay.
Yeah. So to our friend Ray, and what we make of Travis Kelce for today. It's hard, right? Because I think that Kelce is pretty far past it at this point. He doesn't seem. Remember back in the day, Kelce was open on every single play, and he was always there as in case of emergency. Whenever there was a scenario where Patrick Mahomes was in trouble, he could always run around in the pocket, evade tackles. And Travis Kelce was always going to be open and always had this good rapport with Patrick Mahomes where he was just going to find an opening. He was going to find an open space in the secondary, and he was going to be that guy who Patrick Mahomes could always throw to reliably in those kinds of scenarios. I just don't think he has that level of athleticism anymore. The reason that you're kind of forced to play some of Travis Kelce today anyway, though, is because there's nobody else for Patrick Mahomes to throw the football to anymore. His leading pass catchers right now, like his primary go-to guys, At wide receiver, it's Hollywood Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster because there is no Rashee Rice right now. He's dealing with the suspension. There is no Xavier Worthy, who got hurt by friendly fire by Travis Swift, by the way. So because they are so shorthanded on pass catchers, like you're just kind of forced to land on some of Travis Kelce because like if you're not paying up for him in that range, who else are you going to? So I don't feel great about him. I'm not going to be prioritizing him. I'm a little bit underweight to the field. The Sims are as well. You see showing up in 33% of lineups in the flex with 36% ownership. In the captain spot, he's 8% owned. He's showing up in 6% of lineups. So certainly viable relative to the field. I'm going to be a little bit underweight to him.
I can't believe I fell for that. I am just so trusting on all of these. I mean,
trying to explain it to you is also pretty funny, though. I think a lot of the audience probably enjoyed that.
You know, at least Plan B smoothie is straight up. Oi. All right. So Robert Tonyan is with the Kansas City Chiefs. He is now, 6 years removed from that magical 2020 season when he had all the touchdowns, when he had 11 of his 17 career touchdowns. He's had 3 since that season. But he is on the field, and we know that tight end threes have magical powers on island games. Noah Gray is actually somebody I'm putting in my cash game lineup because I like the way it works out. He has similar rates to Kelce this year from an on-field when you factor in salary. From an on-field perspective, he got a good 3-year deal from the Chiefs kind of as the heir apparent, and he's the main blocking tight end, but he's actually a capable receiver. So he is someone that kind of gets that potential Patrick Mahomes boost in the red zone, or anytime Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback, you always get a little elevated touchdown equity there. So he's someone that I like. He was on 41% of the plays last week's first week, 65% last week. So that is a good trend, and he has just been a steady contributor throughout time. We've got to remember Kelce is basically the giant wide out / slot receiver. He doesn't really block in line, though he did more last year than in prior years. So I really like Noah Gray. $2,000, I believe, on DraftKings makes him, I think, a palatable option. For the Giants tight ends, it's all Theo Johnson. 81% of the snaps. Bellinger and Chris Manhertz is mostly a blocker, but Bellinger, a couple years back, I think it was his rookie year, just through attrition, he ended up being the main tight end, and he got a bunch of passes that year. He's really on the field for about a quarter of the plays. Same with Manhertz. So I'm not excited about those guys, but Theo Johnson has 8 of the 10 targets that have gone to touchdowns. I mentioned how Russell Wilson tends to look for the tight ends when they're close to the end zone, and he had 3. He has 3 red zone targets, so that's not bad for a tight end. He doesn't have a lot of PPR or yardage upside, but he is a decent target, and I think he's someone that is definitely above average. But he is the guy worth mentioning there. Real quick on the kickers, couple veterans. Graham Gano, his shout out is he was in the league before DFS existed. That's been a long time. He did his, I think it's his 6th year for the Giants, so very familiar there with kicking outdoors and in MetLife Stadium. So he gets a little bit of a nod. He has been hurt a little bit each of the last 2 years, but he has hit 5 of his last 6 from beyond 50 yards. I like to call that out because kicking is always crucial here on Showdowns. When we get to Harrison Butker, he wasn't very good from long range last year, but he has been every other year of his career. Remember, he plays all his games outside and most of his division games outside there in the AFC West. So we want to give him a little bit of a pass for that. And he also got a huge contract and is very trusted by the Chiefs. So shout out to that. The defenses, Russ Wilson is probably going to give up a splash play. Doesn't it seem preordained that there's a fumble, a strip sack, a scoop and score, a pick six, something from Wilson? But
yeah. So by the way, back on the topic of the Chiefs pass catchers, some people bring it up in chat. We also got a question in Discord from it as well. Cream asked us, what about Tyquan Thornton? So as far as Tyquan Thornton goes, he's somebody who we didn't really touch on when it came to the Chiefs wide receivers there, or as it pertained to the Travis Kelce question. So one thing that is making me prioritize, I think the real decision point a lot of people is going to, because they're priced almost similarly, the decision point a lot of people are going to make is Juju Smith-Schuster versus Tyquan Thornton. I prefer Juju. Our data prefers Juju. I think the field is going to prefer Thornton, which is actually the main reason that I prefer Juju. I don't think either of these guys are particularly good. But just because Thornton's the guy who had the bigger game last week, he caught the long touchdown pass, I think that's who the field is going to want to click on. But with that in mind, I just don't think there's a massive difference in terms of expected output. Like, we've got Juju projected for 8.2 fantasy points. We've got Thornton projected for 7.3. So, marginally higher for Juju Smith-Schuster. But I think the field is going to gravitate towards Thornton because he had the bigger game last week. So just to be a little bit different from the field, I'm going to pivot to Juju. I don't have a massive issue with either of them, but that's the direction that I'm going to be leaning, just because I think that's where the field is going to go.
Okay. Positives for Thornton. He is third in the league with air yards heading into week 3, and second, I think, in ADOT overall. So you're hoping lightning strikes. Maybe you get a Trey Tucker outcome. Maybe. I agree with you on Juju. And I'm scared. So what do you think of the ownership on Hollywood Brown? Because I'm scared, man. The guy steps on a blade of grass wrong, and he's off to the medical tent, or he's sitting on the trainer's bench. And that is painful. And everybody wrote him in cash last week, as they should have, coming off a 16-target game. But I think he had 3 different trips. Or not, he wasn't going to the locker room, but he had 3 different stints where the trainers were looking at him in last week's game. He is Mr. Glass. That was my assessment of him. What do you think about him? I didn't want him anywhere near my cash game lineups.
So Hollywood Brown is pretty easily my favorite pass catcher to be getting to from the Chiefs. He's actually the skill position player who shows up the most in the sims of anybody in the entire game. Actually seen the flex spot, actually even more of Hollywood Brown than Malik Neighbors, although Neighbors is showing up quite a bit more in the captain spot. But between the two of them, between Hollywood Brown and the other pass catchers from the Chiefs, the reason I'm going to gravitate more towards Hollywood Brown, we're only a week removed from him having 16 targets in a game. Only had 5 last week. Not that that's terrible or anything like that, but, through 2 games in the season now, he's got 21 targets. I do think he is the guy who is going to lead this team in targets until Xavier Worthy comes back, until Rashee Rice comes back. So Hollywood Brown, who I know a lot of people talk about, hey, look at the long plays that Tyquan Thornton was able to make last week. I think Hollywood Brown is a big play receiver than what Tyquan Thornton is. Thornton's just the one who happened to bring down a pass last week down the field. But Hollywood Brown is my favorite pass catcher overall to be playing from the Kansas City Chiefs.
All right. I believe Jalen Royal is going to be – yep, he is active. He had not played in the first 2 games. He was dealing with knee tendonitis that sort of got him towards the end of training camp in August. So he is in there. That probably puts the kibosh on Jason Brownlee, who I think is active. He's not listed as inactive, so I wasn't looking at if he was on the practice squad and just not elevated. You also have Nico Ramijo out there, was kind of as one of the kick returners, and he got a couple offensive snaps. I think those go away with Jalen Royal. Would you consider playing Royal?
Is he showing up at all in the same? I wish he was cheaper. For a guy who hasn't been playing, it's very odd that not that $2,800 the price tag is going to break the bank Emac, but why is he $2,800 instead of sub 1K? Right? Like, and that for me is, we got him projected for 1.5 fantasy points. I don't think he's any different than the guys like Jason Brownlee or Brashard Smith or anything like that. You just have to pay a couple $1,000s more for him. So to me, as weird as to say it, at $2,800, I think he's a little bit overpriced, just because you could get a very comparable player for an under $1,000 price tag tonight. And then to round out, sorry, because we did skip receiver, to round out with the Giants there, obviously Neighbors is a golden god, so we have to give him
the respect he deserves. Wan'Dale Robinson, 18 targets over the first 2 weeks. That's pretty good. Buoyed a little bit by the overtime game in the last one, but it's super consolidated because Darius Slayton is the only other receiver, wideout that is, to have targets this season. That's kind of crazy through 2 games that only 3 receivers that are out there. But the other thing to keep in mind is Bo Collins is the only other receiver that's played besides that aforementioned trio. So things are super duper consolidated there with the Neighbors and Robinson. And those guys, I think, are definitely viable for the multiplier slot. So those are 2 I'd like to be above the field on. I'm only playing on DraftKings tonight. I built one lineup over there on Yahoo. I'm not playing on FanDuel. So, but that's the kind of the thoughts there. But I'm not excited about any of the Casey guys. I'm terrified of Brown. That's just a chalk donkey, right? Because he's always hurt, and I don't want that to happen. And I had CJ Lamb and my FanDuel and DraftKings cash game lineups, and that sucked. Is that why I don't want to play Hollywood Brown? Because I'm candy ass?
I can't get inside I can't get inside your head, Emac. I think you would be able to know better than me, but possibly.
I'm the guy that's saying bad words on the show because I don't pay attention.
So, yeah, I mean, as far as Hollywood Brown goes, he was super popular last week. Didn't have a very good game. It wasn't like the worst game in the world. He had 5 catches for 30 yards at a relatively cheap price point. So it's not like he would have been the sole reason that a lineup busted last week, but he certainly would have prevented you from winning a GPP last week. But I think it's a good bounce back spot for him. All the reasons that he was, to be honest, he wasn't even, for a main slate, he wasn't even that much different than what his ownership is for Showdown tonight. And I think all the reasons he was super popular last week are the same reasons to roster him this week. It's what I said, 16 targets 2 weeks ago. They're still really thin at wide receiver. If you liked him last week, I don't really think there's a compelling reason to not like him this week other than he didn't play well last week.
God, we got to do something about these bots here.
I'm banning them pretty quick, or at least as quickly as I reasonably can.
Yeah, I'm trying to as well. Is it faster to do it in the YouTube chat? I'm in StreamYard now. I didn't know.
Yeah, I'm doing it. I just do it in the YouTube chat as soon as I see him pop up.
Okay. Apologies to everyone for dealing with that pox that is upon us. You know what? DraftKings pick 6. I can't play it. I don't think you can play it. But if you can play it, if you are in one of the 18 states that has it, if you put $5 in, you'll get $50 in pick'em credits. Mm-hmm. So that is the DraftKings pick 6. You'll definitely want to check that out if you are able, because DraftKings is clearly the way of the future, and they are the 800-pound gorilla in our favorite zoo here. You do want to know if you or anybody else has a gambling problem. Please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. And in most states, you need to be 18 or older to play the Pick 6 contests, 19 in Alabama and Nebraska, 21 in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia. But hey, 5 into $50 from the jump, I'll take that deal. That is DraftKings pick 6. Harambe, there's another one. we live in a pop culture world. All right, I think we hit everything. What are some of the crazier things that you're seeing here?
Well, we didn't talk about the Giants wide receivers. We talked about.
I was trying to get in there. It's a two-man show, and Slayton's is the third guy. Only 3 have seen the field all year.
So I think it is worth noting some of the captain guys here, because one thing we're seeing here is that Malik Neighbors, he's projected for 20% ownership in the captain spot. So he is the second most popular player in the multiplier spot on DraftKings. The only guy who's more popular than him is Patrick Mahomes. So between Mahomes and Neighbors, you're getting nearly, or actually a little bit north of half of the multiplier exposure. Over on FanDuel, though, you've got Malik Neighbors at a reduced 12% ownership in the MVP spot, although still with Patrick Mahomes being more popular there, combined, they are still making up about half of the overall MVP ownership there. I like Neighbors more than our data does, Emac. You're getting Neighbors at once again, a pretty good amount of ownership, but it's not quite as much as Patrick Mahomes. Over on FanDuel, where he's only a third the ownership of Patrick Mahomes, I like going to neighbors relative to ownership a little bit more than Patrick Mahomes. And then one other thing also that I feel a little bit different than our data on is I prefer rostering Malik Neighbors to Russell Wilson, where Russell Wilson shows up in more lineups in the Sims than Malik Neighbors does. I think Malik Neighbors is matchup proof. The one thing that no wide receiver could totally be is quarterback proof, right? If a quarterback is just totally terrible, then maybe just sometimes there's not much a wide receiver could do about that. But with that said, with absolutely terrible quarterback play over the course of his career, Malik Neighbors has been pretty damn good. So I really like getting to Malik Neighbors, and I like doing what I can to try to fit Neighbors into lineups in the multiplier spot and then Mahomes in the flex spot. And then there are enough guys who are modestly, cheaply priced that I think makes that doable. I know you pretty quickly glanced past or talked on the defenses and the kickers. And one thing you said that I agree with you on, Emac, I do think this is a really good spot to be rostering the Chiefs defense. I'm getting to a lot of exposure to them in the flex. I'm getting a lot of exposure to them. Well, not a lot, but relative to the field, I think they're a good contrarian option in the multiplier spot as well. Look at how often Russell Wilson threw the ball last week. What did he finish with? How many pass attempts?
Was it 40? I don't know off the top of my head. Sorry.
All right. It was, so through 2 games, last week, Russell Wilson threw the ball 41 times. The week before, he threw the ball 37 times. That's what creates opportunities for defenses to score points. Sack opportunities, turnover. If a team just runs the ball a lot, it's pretty hard for a defense to score fantasy points. But if a team's throwing the ball a lot, it just opens up more opportunities. And this Chiefs defense is so good, there's a very live possibility that they're able to generate a couple of turnovers, maybe sack Russell Wilson a couple of times. So I think that this is a really good spot to get to them for value. That's actually my favorite value play on the entire slate is the KC defense. And long story short, because I was kind of tying this into Neighbors, like how do you play Neighbors and Patrick Mahomes in the same lineup together? One of the reasons how you do it is you just prioritize the Chiefs defense a little bit more than the field. And we've got the Chiefs defense at right around 20% projected ownership on FanDuel. On DraftKings right now, let's see, where do we have the Chiefs defense projected for ownership on DraftKings? We've got them for, let's see, Chiefs defense is 17% owned. Yeah, I like being overweight to the Chiefs defense on both FanDuel and DraftKings. Pretty sizably, that kind of ownership. I think it's a good spot for them.
All right. Filtering through my lineups here and choosing the 50 I am going to play, plus my cash game lineup. There's still a few team free money, username Emac, just $1 there in the head-to-head lobby on DraftKings. Pride is priceless. And by the way, it turns out I won 7 of my 72 cash game lineups on the main slate. It's team free money, giving back to the community here. Not using the Stokastic products when I make my cash game. That's my one thing where I still hand build it from scratch. So
that's reasonable. With that said, I do think it is just to like have all the salaries and projections in front of you. I do like hand building lineups in the single lineup sim. Yeah. Like I played, there was some overlay in cash games over on Owner's Box today. So like that's the situation where right before lock, be like, oh shit, I got to build a cash game lineup really quick. And I'll do that in the single lineup sim now. I won't sim it afterwards because you don't have to, but it's like I'll put in the players who I know I for sure want to play, and then I'll just kind of optimize around them. So I do use that to build my cash game lineup.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I do as well. Because once you get you know the few obvious plays, and there was a lot of obvious plays today, but CD Lamb kind of killed me there. Oh well, at least there's the secret side. Thankfully, I did well on Yahoo. Why is that not working? Unfavorite, refavorite. Are you doing any particular settings here when you're playing Showdown? Do you like put a salary floor in, or do you just let the ROI do its thing?
Yeah, I generally just let it rip. The thing that I will change afterwards, sometimes I'll go look at my exposures and maybe there's a cheap guy who just isn't showing up in lineups who maybe I feel a little bit better about than our data. I might go in and I'll do like an ROI boost. That's also one of the benefits of there being 50,000 lineups in the Sims now is, let's say that you really liked one of these like Brashard Smith. Let's just say you happen to, I don't actually have anybody who's like sub 1K that I really like a lot for today, but every once in a while, there's somebody who's sub 1K. I'm like, hey, I just want to make sure I get this guy in like 5-6% of lineups or something like that. And now that we do have 50,000 lineup pools in the Sims, if you just go and you do a pretty solid ROI boost to any of those really cheap guys, like you'll just find the 5, 6, 7 best lineups that have one of those guys in it. So that's the main boosts that I'll do. Or like for this morning for the NFL slate, if you guys watched the show that I did to open it up, I had a couple of points of leverage. I liked DJ Moore over Roma Dunze. I also like George Pickens over CeeDee Lamb. So that's something I'll go into the Sims for, especially for some of those leverage spots. I'll try to like negative ROI boost the popular players showing up in more lineups, and then I will positively ROI boost the leverage player who want to get into more lineups in place of that other guy. So that's mainly the changes I'm making, is just like little ROI tweaks to individual guys who I want to get more of.
Yeah, I have a more ham-fisted approach, and since we had a couple minutes here, I wanted to throw that out there. I tend to just cap put a ceiling on the because I'm building out 50 on the captain slots, and then I sort of see if I'm going over or under on the flex, and that's where I put the ROI boosts in. So I know that's one of the main questions we get is, all right, well, do you just push the buttons? How much do you weigh in on the different things, etc.? Occasionally, if I'm looking at something and I'm seeing I got a lot of $44,000 DraftKings lineups, you want to go see why is that happening? What is going on? Does it make sense? Does the lineup still make sense? Sometimes maybe yes, sometimes maybe no. But you want to investigate those things. So I tend to run sorts just to see how much, how many. If I've got 2 or 3 of my 50 that are 46,000 or less, I don't lose a lot of sleep over it if it's a positive ROI lineup. But because I play a lot of the smaller fields, I tend to like to use more of my salary because it's not as necessary outside of the mini max to have that as be one of the levers for differentiation.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. One other thing too that is kind of an interesting thing to do as I get more of these annoying bots out of chat is people often ask, how do you get a guarantee a minimum amount of player in a lineup? Here's actually a fun way that I don't think a lot of people think to do this, but I'm going to show you something, Emac. All right, let's say that. All right, so we've got Noah Gray showing up in 7% of lineups right now. Let's say that you said, I want to have exactly 20% of Noah Gray. Here's an easy way to do it. Go to Noah Gray. All right, I'll just go to him in the flex. I'm just going to give him like a crazy, like 200% ROI boost, right? So that's going to make him show up in a lot of lineups at first, right? So we go, unfavored our top 150 lineups, refavorite them, and now Noah Gray is in a ton of lineups, 68%. But look at this. We went into this saying that you want to have 20% of Noah Gray. Go to the exposure caps now and go 20% Noah Gray, set exposure and adjust favorites. You could actually do this to guarantee you get a certain amount of a player. So now when you go here, you're going to have 20% of Noah Gray. So for some of these slates, if you want to have an exact amount of a player, people ask this. They'll say, how do I they don't necessarily just want to do like a little ROI boost one way or no, they want to have an exact amount of a player. That is a way you could game it to get an exact amount of a player that you want. So that's something that I do a little bit as well sometimes, play around with the tools for something like Showdown.
So what show people how you can look at just your favorited lineups.
Yeah.
That's a cool
you just go look at the lineups page over here, and you can just see all of the lineups that are the top 150 that have been favorited in this case, because that's what we're playing is 150 lineups. You could also go and look at the exposures tab and see all the exposure you have to individual players. You could also go to the favorites tab and just see all of your lineups here as well. One other thing as well, these bots are relentless today.
Yeah, they are tonight. I keep trying to get them too. So
dupes. Also something that's pretty important for Showdown. Some of the lineups that are expected to be duped the most tonight here, Emac. You'll see here we've got this one lineup. Actually, ironically, has Noah Gray, who we were talking about before. If you guys play this lineup today, congrats. So is a lot of the field. Patrick Mahomes, Kareem Hunt, Malik Neighbors, Noah Gray, Russell Wilson, Travis Kelce. That lineup right here out of this 50,000 lineup pool is duped 296 times. So this is a lineup that we are expected to be playing the most, that the field is expected to be playing the most. So ideally, this is a lineup you don't want to have in your player pool. So that's another thing that is fun to look at for Showdown, is just look at which lineups the field is playing the most.
Or use that as your cash game lineup, and you'll probably be semi-unique.
Yeah, I mean, you could also look at the most duped lineups. It'll give you like a rough outline of what it is you should maybe be leaning towards for cash games. I think the best overall way for something like Showdown to build a cash game lineup is just go into the single lineup sim and just press optimize with 0% randomness. Just play the lineup that projects the best. But yeah, that's definitely a decent starting point, is looking at some of the players that show up in the most duped lineups. And that probably gives you a good indication of, oh, this is Patrick Mahomes is in all the most duped lineups. He should probably be in my cash game lineup. Although kind of the same as just players who are really popular, you probably want to be playing in cash games. I'm curious, Emac, who is somebody that the field is getting to a lot that you are not getting to as much of, and you are worried that they're potentially going to ruin your night? Because you can never be overweight to everybody. So there is got to be at least somebody who you're not on here that makes you a little bit nervous.
Give me 1 sec to hit upload, and I will tell you. Because somehow I closed out that tab, but I got my CSV ready, firing that up with my 51 lineups. All right, so who am I nervous about? So when I look at the exposure caps on captain, I set it at, or I was massaging things. I ended up matching the field with Patrick Mahomes because I got rid of some negative ROI lineups with what I had done. I'm okay with that. I'm above the field on Neighbors. I want that. However, I'm below on Hollywood Brown. That gives me a little trepidation. I'm below on Travis Kelce. That gives me a little trepidation. So those are the two guys I'm a little nervous about. I'm thinking the Chiefs' ancillary targets get a little more love tonight. That's going against the grain of saying, well, if it's Brown and Kelce, who are the last two most accomplished receivers, that's who we want. I'm trying to get Thornton. I'm trying to get Juju in there to be a little bit different. I don't think now I wish I would have Royals. Do I get any? I do not have any Jalen Royals. I wanted to get one lineup with him, but not going to mess with everything since I had a successful upload there.
Yeah. So, what percentage of our viewers are bots today? What percentage? I know.
1 million, like Morgan Wiper there. Please tell me that's not a bad word somehow said backwards.
No, it isn't. It is not at all. Also, one more time, shout out to Morgan, who is the latest inductee into the Stokastic Hall of Fame as a millionaire winner, who also, he won the MLB Millie, 2 or 3 weeks ago or something like that. But yeah, $1 million won by Morgan. It was a Caleb Williams stack. He had, Roma Dunze's in the lineup. He also had Trey McBride, Ricky Pearsall, who was showing up a ton in our data earlier after Juwan Jennings got ruled out. Garrett Wilson is in the lineup. Nico Collins, Jordan Mason, Jonathan Taylor. I don't see the defense here, but I presume that it was the Vikings defense that was in that lineup. So shout out to Morgan. 2 milli wins over the course of less than a month. That's pretty sick stuff. If you guys want to get into Stokastic Hall of Fame, win a GPP, play with the Stokastic avatar, and add us like Morgan did here when you end up winning. And then you'll get yourself a free month of Sims, or, you win $1 million, you get a lot more cool stuff than that. But anyway, shout out to Morgan. And there's no reason for you guys to not be playing with the Stokastic avatar because it costs nothing and you got a chance to win some free stuff out of it.
Yeah, that I did not realize he was the baseball winner. Was that in that sort of condensed end of year tournament?
Yeah, the main event, which he came in like first, fourth, 8th, and 10th or something like that.
I'm telling you, I could use another co-host on Sunday nights. Morgan, give me a call. Give me a call. We have to put you on air here after this showing.
Yeah, it's sick stuff. Also, I want to once again remind everybody that we are sponsoring. And if you haven't done it, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Before we get to lock, want to remind you guys that we are sponsored here by DraftKings Pick 6. Emac told you guys earlier that if you are going to be playing over DraftKings Pick 6 and you haven't checked out yet, you absolutely should, because your first $5 in pick six sets, it's going to get you $50 in bonus picks. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Just call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. 18 plus, valid only where Pick Six operates. See dknjng.co/Pick Six slates. Void in New York and Ontario, and where prohibited. Eligibility restrictions apply. One per new DraftKings customer. $5 in first pick set to receive max $50 issued as non-withdrawable bonus picks that expire in 14 days. This ends on October 13th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. Terms can be found at picksix.draftkings.com/promos. This is sponsored by DraftKings. Good luck with all your lineups tonight, guys, and enjoy your night. See you guys back here tomorrow.